Glory in the light of the Radiant One. Glory in the light of the Radiant One. Glory in the light of the Radiant One. Do you know the meaning of this mantra? Do you know the power and the value and the significance of this mantra? Have you ever wondered who you really are and why you are here on earth? Where did you come from? What is this life all about? The goddess, priestess, amazing woman that is our guest today is my dear, dear friend and soul sister from the stars, Celestine Aisha Star, who has actually ascended and returned to the stars. I've been rescheduling, and I just surrendered because I wanted her to show up at her very best and very healthiest. I wish I hadn't waited so long, because on July the 4th at 5 p.m., 2022, our beloved Celestine Aisha Star chose to leave her body and ascend and return to the Radiant One. I am doing this show in her honor as a tribute to the absolutely exquisite, amazing, stellar being that she is. Dr. Celestine Aisha Star is the embodiment of divine feminine power and galactic wisdom. She is, in my opinion, the most impressive woman I have ever met. I consider her the ultimate, ancient future, eternal now, spiritual Renaissance woman. Celestine was a bodhisattva who walked the earth at a very young age, already so aware, enlightened, connected to all that is and to the galactic realms, as well as grounded in her body and fully present, making a difference on the planet. The goddess, priestess, amazing woman that is our guest today is my dear, dear friend and soul sister from the stars, Celestine Aisha Star. I was divinely guided to create this channel, Conversations with Goddess, as a platform for the divine feminine energy that is awakening and rising on the planet. And the time has come to hear her story. She is a way shower, grandmother, galactic ambassador for the High Spiritual Council and the Galactic Star Federation, medicine wheel keeper, international businesswoman, spiritual teacher, sacred feminine leader, artist for life, multidisciplinary visual artist, videographer, event producer, archivist, author, speaker, besides being just the most amazing priestess that I have ever met. Today, we will be hearing from Star herself about her earth walk. Celestine began her life as a magical child, and here she is in her own words. We begin on Christmas Eve. A child was born.
But I was born into a metaphysical family in which my mother was a high priestess. I was given Anne Celestine, which she would always tell me, you were named after Mother Mary's mother. Aware of the universe in a different way than most people. We have Egyptian heritage, Nubian Egyptian. So right there, we started this path of the star goddess Isis and Nephthys, and understanding the principles that they represent, along with all the pantheons of the Egyptian. We also had Native Americans, so there was a lot of metaphysics. She was into ceremony. I didn't agree with the ceremony because it was based on arcane magic, which is the controlling of creation. I just felt it wasn't for us to control spirits or to create things that would make people do what they didn't want to do. And so I had a hard time with the mystery school. Later in years, I understood that that's what I had to go through in order to be where I am today. I was given all the esoteric arts, science and astrology, astronomy, all of the understanding of arcane symbolism, going in a place and understanding how to read the place through symbolism. I was given the medicine wheel by Ruby Sky, a lot of the shamanic teachings. She was Arapaho and she became my teacher at the age of 7. So having a near-death experience at the age of 6, I was full of the spirit of creation, but couldn't express it into the world. It was very similar to Harry Potter, where they learn many things, but going in the world of society, where do you speak about these things? Right. Going out of body, in a death experience, through the light, met by 2 blue beings, and they greeted me and took me in through the radiant light. As I entered the light, my consciousness was elevated. There was a place that I knew, and there was an awareness. I was 6. So you have to imagine, I can't make up that I'm hallucinating. I don't know how to hallucinate something like this. But I did know that there was other realms. It had been given to me through metaphysical training with my family. Once I had the reading of the light, I entered the Godhead, which cannot be spoken. There is no way to experience it and say it to you, but to know that it is forever and for always, holy, holy of holies. And so that is with me. And I was told to come back. And of course, I came back. And so all of my circuitry was awake. And so from that time to this time, I give you this image because this is my mind constantly, but it is focused in the oneness of the work ahead of us to awaken consciousness on the planet, as many of you as we can, because once you stand in your divinity, you stand awakened, and therefore you can help in the creation of a beautiful earth. It was my destiny to go through the mystery school, to go through the near-death experience and come out with the DNA fully open. It took everything I had to just maintain being in the world and not getting readouts on people or information. I literally had to kind of shut it down to be present. Age of 15, was just about ready to be ordained as a high priestess in my mother's order. And I said no, that I wasn't going to do it. So all of the interdimensional awareness, everything they've given me, I said I must go and learn it for myself if this is true. I had been exposed to Christianity, to Catholic church mental thinking, but they would always teach me the esoteric side of it. In other words, we would spend a lot of time in the biblical libraries of London and looking at manuscripts, original manuscripts. So it was always looking for the deeper meaning to everything. And I began to read the Bible from cover to cover, and I decided these are a bunch of stories, but there's a lot of esoteric knowledge, especially the Psalms, which in the magic circles they use because those are spells that are taken out of the Book of the Dead. Went to about 15 in this magical world with a K, then decided to set off on my own to discover the world. We were living in New Mexico at the time. They did atomic bomb blasting, and I believe they did it in the sky from what my research is showing. And they split the sky in 2. You had that which is regular sky, and then you had this black, nothing was happening. And not only were those who were grown-ups upset, but everyone. What came of that for me was not only witnessing for over weeks while the sky, healed itself, but snow on one side of our lawn and just regular weather on the other side. So there was a lot of paranormal things going on, and the huge saucers appeared. So we had huge saucers, and you'd be driving down those old freeways. Everybody would see this ships, saucer shaped, miles long, and then they would float on their way. I have Native American blood, and I was being guided by this beautiful shaman, Ruby Sky, and taught the medicine wheel at the time. All of the Native Americans appreciate and honor the star people. I have 2 converging, lineages that affected me in understanding Yes, the star people exist. There wasn't ever a time that it didn't exist. When the star people started really appearing, it got serious, and my stepfather decided to drive and follow one, but he didn't tell us. We're in the car, we're driving, and for hours, and finally it landed, and next thing I know, the whole family was in the ship, in a room that for examination, raised to appreciate other spirits, the wind spirits, the elementals, other beings. So I wasn't like in a panic, but I was very curious with these tall grays with eyes. We call them grays now, but they had the almond eyes and 3 or 4 fingers. And they were just really telepathically speaking to me that, even though some of the examinations were painful, my brother was freaking out, my mother was furious. And they wanted to know why we were giving our children DDT and cocaines in our drinks and opiates in our cough syrup. So lots of things came out of that for me, my association with the Galactics. But still, it was just a little one here and a little one there. It wasn't really till 1986, 87. I had gone through a marriage with Special Forces agent who became the security over Edwards Air Force Base. Married him, had a child in the 70s, and found out after we did a tour in Europe, and he began to be the flight chief over Edwards Air Force Base, that there was actually reptilians there. So that was another understanding what's on the planet, who's been here, how they're affecting all of us. And so he actually got us out of there. It was really an amazing experience, very espionage, deep six in the Dragon's Den. He was released. He just couldn't do it because he loved humanity too much. He wanted us to all know.
Sometimes whatever would happen would be so devastating or traumatic for him that he would have to drink. And so when he came home and he had to drink, I knew that something had been very difficult for him. He let me know without a shadow of a doubt that he couldn't talk because our home was tapped, as he said. So that meant to me that everything was being recorded. I'm saying from a wife that has witnessed, I know without a doubt there is other species that our government is working with, period. Case closed.
Embodiment is in the shape of a lizard-like creature, probably 7 could be up to 8 feet tall, and they're not here. The ones that I experienced would make the hairs stand on the back of your head. They're actually here for their own advantage, maybe at the time sharing with our government different technologies. The only thing that was saving us from them really coming out onto the surface was they can't breathe the oxygen that we breathe. They have a more radiational type mixture of atmosphere. And so that kind of saved humanity. It has saved us, but there are caverns and different things. So that whole world opened up to me, which is not something that I'm interested in. It's frightening. You just want to hold the light, you hold the wall. And so I took that with me, and later we separated. I was called to the Mayakama Mountains, where an established underground interdimensional base, they call it a septical, living among these extraterrestrials, which I was told, please call them ultra-terrestrials. They've been here for some time, some from the very beginning. And that really started my life there. Fast forward now to where the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico happened. It was going on from, I believe, April, to something like, it was already June, something like that, right? So being in June, we looked around, and I just had this feeling in my heart that, the oceans were filling up with this oil, things were shifting, and all you needed was the mid-Atlantic pump to stop pumping, and you have an ice age in Europe, right? So my heart was just like, okay, what are we going to do? Because obviously the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, was larger than we were able to manage. And so I write about it in the book. And so what happened was, on a glorious day, at least 500 starships of multiple size and variant technologies appeared all together. And I'm in the Bay Area, and so you could see them driving all over. Wherever you were, they were there. And I was staying in Hercules with my daughter and helping to raise my grandson, and there was one that stayed right over the house. Now you have to imagine, back in the 80s through the 90s, I didn't come down the mountain until 97. I came out of the forest. I was yogini. I was, basically down to tinctures and water. I did not eat food, really. And I was communing with these ultra-terrestrials who were guiding me. The High Spiritual Council, I was introduced to the Galactic Star Federation, and starships, other dimensional fields. I went across the water to the other side, into the cities of light, and now I'm down the mountain, and I'm seeing these ships, and the mantra they gave me was, glory in the light of the Radiant One. 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 And we chant this. It is a mantra that if you come in contact with higher intelligence and you say, glory in the light of the Radiant One, it is a greeting. But it also lets them know that you're an awakened being and that you're ready to make contact. And so they have permission from the higher realms, and they work directly with the Radiant One. The Radiant One is their God, source, creator. And so, yes, there is not a religion, but a respect. They respect that each and every particle that has been created in all of this particular Radiant One's universe, universal beingness of existence, has an expression and a function. They call that the formation of relations. And so because their heart is devoted, they are in devotional service, devotional awareness, in a natural state of being. They have respect for all life. So I say that to you, glory in the light of the Radiant One. And what it looks like is it allows them to communicate. So I step out on the balcony and I'm saying to this ship that's been there for 3 days, glory in the light of the Radiant One. Blessing, what is going on? Because I'm trying to figure out, why are they stationed? Why is there a meeting in California when this thing is happening in the Gulf of Mexico? And the transmission came through very clear. Gather as many humans as you can. Give us permission to assist you, and do it as soon as you can. The transmission continued. We had a conversation. They showed me the place to go, which was in Fairfax, California, and we dubbed it Turtle Mountain. Now, as I gathered everyone, and this is July, so we're talking about April, the ocean's filling up with this oil since April, and we're already in July. So I set the date after the summer solstice, and they had appeared, I think, somewhere right around, I have it in the book when they appeared, somewhere around the summer solstice or so. And so by the time I got the announcements out, we went up on the mountain. Now it was stipulated to give permission to them to help. I had no idea who was going to show up. I was excited, both on the human side and the starship side. I mean, the fleet was out. I mean, everything that you could see, big motherships, miles long, small scout ships. And because I had my eyes open, my synapses could see, but I didn't know who was going to show up. So 30 of us ended up gathering. I brought Aisha, the big earth crystal. She's about 100 pounds. And we lit her up with laser, and we began the circle. I said, okay, if I'm going to do this, it's going to be ceremony. It's going to be a council. We will be in circle together. There's no up, down, I'm just holding space. I'm called by the Radiant One, which is their God. This is what they call the God, okay? So the God force, the source, the cosmic intelligence. And so everybody did their first round of prayers. We do rounds. You know, I grew up among the Native American. I have Croatan, Algonquin, Iroquois blood, and the Egyptian Nubian. So right there, we're just honoring the mothers. We honor the earth on the first round. Songs, prayers. And the second round, they started coming out right away. And eventually, the big command ship appeared, and some which were with the High Spiritual Council. How do I know this? Because they're telepathically communicating with me. Once I said yes, I was going to do it. I was in full communication. They were working with me night and day. It was probably about 15 or 20 days of them coming and flying with me and telling me, we're going to have a theme, this is what we're going to look at, you know. And so it was an ocean and earth meditation for everyone. We did get permission. 2 days later, there was a 22-ton apparatus that appeared out of nowhere that assisted in the stopping of the leak. I had brought, you know, the boarding passes. I was told to give people boarding passes for them to understand that if anything happened on the planet, that where we were was a jump-off point in kind of an emergency, because things were happening on the planet. We didn't know what was going on. So we asked, did everybody want to do this again? And they said yes. And so we're now looking on July the 11th, 12 years of communing together. And we have everyone from all walks of life, young, old. We've even had some of our secret space force, maybe you would call, you know, the CIA, come up. They did their prayers, and then they walked back down. So we're really happy for that. As I took people up, it was interesting to see people who had no idea that this was really happening. So when they got up there and the ships appeared and they really had the experience, it was overwhelming in some ways. I love the Galactic Star Federation. They took a lot of time. They would fly over and over. They would show us hologramic images of their ships, and they would split into two. They would split into four, come back to one, circle around again. And what they would work with each time is the synapses in our brain, because some couldn't see it at all. And then eventually they would see, and they would say, okay, that doesn't have a wing. Wait a minute, it looks like a plane, but it doesn't have a wing. Wait a minute. And finally it would just click. That's not an airplane. And so there's a lot of programming going on. And then as the night would come, this is all in broad daylight, they would etch the skyline of San Francisco. We had a doctor out there one time. And they just started drawing, you know, this in the clouds, the skyscraper of San Francisco, and that was what really, you know, opened him up. But once your synapses is open, then you can see them and be with them and speak with them and connect with them. There's so much love pouring out. But the High Spiritual Council is really the center of my heart and my guidance. It has galactic consciousness in a human biological body. Part of the work now is to take people back to where they came from when you first came to Earth. I felt it was important that we come together as a council in a sacred way, because my work is very, very sacred. So I want to acknowledge some of the staunch members who have been out with me for 10 years. There's our Deborah Juicy, Simbakta. I have Shaddad and Chelsea Perry, who's on here today. There's Michael Olson. He is our belated beloved. We say, you know, glory in the light of the radiant one. And you can see the smiles and everyone is excited and we're all just elated. By the time we walk down the mountain after spending a night with our galactic relatives, we are beyond belief. And it continues in their life. This is heaven also, with the hands raised with me. Take a breath. I'm going to look at what your galactic origins are. That part of you that is connected to celestial and heavenly realms of creation. You are a celestial being experiencing an earthly life in an earthly body. Once you get that understanding, there's so much more to you. On a daily basis, even when you talk to your dog or your cat, You're speaking to a being who's not human, but has an intelligence that is conferring with you, communicating. Where is that coming from? How is that possible? You are in this moment living in a greater cosmos of celestial realities. Here you are in the cosmos. So why is it important to awaken to your celestial self? You as a human seed consciousness are in a state of becoming, a being of higher consciousness. Aligning and activating your galactic consciousness starts the process of full integration of your divine being with your human self. You then fulfill humanity's destiny to be a part of evolving humanity into its fullest potential. And we have offices everywhere. There are millions of us now. Back in the 70s and 60s, there was hardly anyone awake. But now, there are millions, and I'm so excited. I'd come to a place where society was not fulfilling, and I was called to a higher purpose. So I left the billionaire club. I left the millionaires. I left the city. I left my work as an optician. I said, I'm either getting out of America, which was very difficult for me because I was raised mostly in England, but I knew I had to go somewhere. And so I was guided to the high mountains. And it was there, even though I opened an optical shop and I realized I didn't have to work, I could spend time for myself. I ended up very quietly just letting go of everything in the deepest woods, 980 acres. And there I rediscovered myself. I was inspired at that point to open the Temple of Light, and that was in 1986. I started the Temple of Light, and I began to make my first medicine wheel. The medicine wheel was amazing because I made it as an Egyptian medicine wheel with the complex of the universe. A medicine wheel is the universe, and it is your universe. And I made it in a Native American way. I began to give ceremonies, and the Native Americans, the Pomos would show up and do medicine wheel with me, and people would come, and it became a thing that I would just once a month. And I slowly began to call in the different seasons. We would go to the woods, or I would do a ceremony, and it became my work. And so that's how I kind of got involved in being a priestess. So I know that it came naturally, and I'm at the mercy of the spirit of the goddess who is guiding me, and the gods and the creation and the creator. And it's always been my path. And I decided the goddess that I would choose would be Nui, which is the night sky, which I always loved the night sky, being the blue star, my name meaning the blue star. So I said, okay, Nui and Isis Nephthys as one together, and then Mary Magdalene. I'd seen her in the esoteric writings as an awakened being. I knew that she'd been trained in the temples, but they didn't really write about it. But I had known through the arcane magic lineage that she was an awakened being. Of course, I know that Isis was Mother Mary, and that was her last incarnation. She came to me quite often, all the time. I got into the full-on pyramids and negative ionizers and crystals and lasers. You know, I'm always into the quantum science, so I'm kind of on that end of the spectrum. In metaphysics, I find a great joy in the healing practice. So through that time up in the mountains of Middletown, I healed myself. I went into the process, became a licensed healer, doing alchemical hypnotherapy and such. I brought out my hermetic studies as an alchemist. Those years were spent healing a lot of people. I had people from all over the world coming. And those 10 years have been continuing to help people and heal people and giving ceremonies when it's appropriate. The medicine wheel here in Fairfax, where they had a medicine wheel in one of the parking lots. They've drawn a beautiful medicine wheel, and there was a beautiful center. It was a spiritual center. So I found myself doing workshops and gatherings. I spent some time, I had interdimensional light services. And what I did was I took my money, and as money came in, I devoted it to community. And I gave a workshop once a month for 15 years. That money paid for people to work for the interdimensional light services and be able to pay their rent and to learn a vocation in doing the workshops. We had world-renowned speakers, and slowly we would get one person at a time out of poverty, or we'd get them the job. What do you need? You need a workshop. You need, what do you get a license? And so I had this money altar for 15 years, and we were able to get 25 people out of poverty and able to sustain themselves. So I'm really happy about that. I did light group meetings, formalized people to come together and learn about the world, so people would bring things to share. I touch base with our star family, so that's a part of my work, and it goes along with who I am. I've done astrology, and they say, you're very galactic. This is what you're about, so feel comfortable. It's okay to love the galaxies and the planets and the beings from other dimensions. It's a part of my life, utilizing it again to bring information to people I channeled from 1985, my mother passed away, until about 2000. I don't trance channel out of my body, but I'm a sensitive, awakened by being in the Godhead. So I do share my wisdom, and still working towards the higher good. I've archived probably human consciousness for 30 years. I have a quite body of work of all of you. Quite a journey. It still continues. It keeps expanding. My purpose is to assist in the elevation of consciousness on earth, to keep the way sacred. Hunna hurda lereyano shiraverora mereveano rea Nyeraveo nore Shonamarere Shereveano. Glory in the light of the radiant one. We open to the radiance of the all, and we ask that only in the highest good may we receive that which is given. May you guide my voice, and may it be for the highest good for all who are present today. May you receive all that you are seeking in the deepness of your heart. May this working be for all time. May it be in the highest good for all. Blessed be.
This has been a joy and a working of love to create this tribute to our beloved Dr. Celestine Aisha Star. It is my honor to honor her. I have felt many a time in this lifetime while she was here with us that she was not properly recognized, appreciated, or honored. I hope that this tribute show, in some small way, has shared who she is with the world so that we can truly appreciate her and what she has left with us as her legacy. To know her is to love her, and the love that is pouring through from everybody wanting to say something about Celestine is profound. It's a spiritual phenomenon. I have interviews with most of the people that I could actually schedule and do interviews with in this short period of time. So now we're going to hear from all of Celestine's beloveds, starting with her family.
She was the most gracious human being. Gracious in that she had a practice skill to empathize. I can't tell you how many notes I received from people that said, your mother was the only person that understood me, or your mother was someone I could talk to because she didn't judge me. There's not many people that I know that you can go to and really open up vulnerably and honestly. And even at times I wasn't able to do that, but strangers were able to do this. And such to the number that it's completely obvious to me that she was much like a guru in that sense. And that was what I believe was she has gifted me and my son and the ones that I say are the closest to me with an opportunity. She always pressed us to think bigger than ourselves, think bigger than the constructs that we live in today. It's why I have the understanding, albeit limited, the openness because of her, because she has this way of laying it at your feet. Well, here it is. Look at this. Consider this. And it's something that allows you to pick it up at your time when you're ready. When I look at my mom and what she's demonstrated with her experiences with others, whether they've let her down, whether she had expectations, she still found a way to acknowledge they are operating at their maximum capacity in terms of consciousness. Don't hold it against them. And I would get frustrated. I'm like, why are you dealing with these people or doing this? And they're right where they are. And everyone is right where they are. Her life mission was to elevate the consciousness. Think about the environment. Let's think about the possibilities on the planet. I mean, she really kept raising these things over and over and over. So as her daughter, I got a lot of it. Could have had more. But we operate sometimes in these ecosystems. And whether it's purposeful or an accident, sometimes it shuts you down. It walls you off from thinking higher. And so growing up as her daughter, I believe that her quest, her life's mission in this generation and in her grandson's generation, she's done the work. We have a more open mind, obviously room to grow for both of us. But if you were at the service, you would have seen this magnificent representation of a young boy, just 20, who's open. His mind is open. So the gift was to help others and us continue to think more broadly about the possibilities of our time, how to do good work, find our mission, and leave this world a better place. I was just driving today, talking to her. That's a little bit of my therapy to get through this. And I told her, I love you, Mommy. And if I never ever said, how beautiful you are such a beautiful person, such a beautiful mommy.
Did you get the immensity and the intensity and the awesomeness of Celestine Star? Also, every mother and daughter dynamic has its ups and downs, okay? The times when you're really close and other times when you're perhaps distanced because of some situation in life. She shared with me a little bit about that, if you don't mind me getting into it, with a relationship that she had. Dating somebody and the child is like, I don't know, that's not a good choice for you, or protective of your relationship and you're not being the main focus.
It took this for me to really begin to understand what you stood for, your values. And I'm really sorry that it took all that, but with Johan, I told him that we were having a call and we want to do the interview and everything. And I told him about the number of followers that she has and her authored books and videos. And he said he didn't know. And I said, no, baby, I didn't either. He said she was just our noni, and she just was doing it in big ways. And I think this is emblematic of the woman. I'm just trying to orient myself, like, how do I carry her light forward? How do I do the right thing? to continue the work that she's done. I'm not Goddess Celestine. You know, I'm not the author. I can definitely mobilize and marshal my skills and my know-how, coupled with her community, to continue to elevate her work. And I'm willing to do that. I think it's the right thing to do.
Like the book, My Mother, Myself, how are you like or not like your mother?
Going through all of her hundreds of items and things. Claudette has a good saying. She says, if 2 was great, 17 was even better. Jewelry, earrings, scarves, goddess gear. And I'm the same exact way. More meaningful, just in the spirit of really wanting everyone to be successful and happy and get along and enjoying the company of people together. This is something that she really, I see her demonstrate it time and time again. Her diplomacy, the way in class which she operates. It hit me after the ceremony when several people told me that you're like your mother in that regard, that the way that she did things. And it just was what I needed to hear. When I was a young girl, after my father, Ernest Hunt, and her got a divorce, she dated Caucasian men. And I just had this huge identity crisis because I was coming from Pleasant Hill to Oakland and I wasn't Black enough. And I think she experienced that same paradigm when she came from England into the States. So it was like same. But also it was something that I really didn't quite understand, the men that she was with. Fast forward, my other half is from Croatia. So it's just something that we had friction over. We really did. I didn't get it. At the time, I was just like in this small itty bitty box, trying to fit into something that was meaningless. Now I have more awareness, more consciousness. And even when I speak to my son, trying to help point out these little boxes that we get into and try to continue to open up, create more consciousness, more empathy, more compassion. Watch who you surround yourself with. And that's really what led her to enhanced life experience, right? Some people never leave the continent. This is why travel is so important for young people, particularly because it shapes your mind. It was a big part of her life experience. And she just never got with the black and white thing. It just never. She never saw humans that way.
The Afro-American plight was not in my blood. And so I came to America at the age of 16. I was so proud. I'm going to America. And then I got here. And what I saw was Watts was burning. The Kent State murders, Vietnam protests. I'm Black and I'm proud. And people would say, oh, you're just Black. And I'd say, oh no, excuse me, I'm a bit cocoa. Sorry about that, you've got the wrong color.
On July the 4th, 2022. What a day, huh? At 5 p.m., she consciously chose to ascend as the spirit warrior that she was.
It was clear she had made a decision. She had a directive in place, by the way. She just was going to go now. And she literally said, I'm out of here. I'm going to go now. No power. That's when I picked up the telephone and started going through her phone and calling people that I knew to call to tell them that she was on her way out. And they were as shocked as I was, but it was this process of getting her on the phone on FaceTime and her saying, love you, goodbye, love you, you're going to be awesome. I mean, it was like, at the time, I was really calm. I wasn't the emotional wreck I'm in right now, but it was what kept me on the rails, because she was really crystal clear that she was going, but she was able to communicate and hear and interact. And She even told the nurses, I'm a death doula. And they were like, what is that? Right. And she told them that she had helped people navigate, hearing it out of her mouth, telling somebody, and then watching how she was reacting. It just gave me the strength that I needed to stand there and make the next call and get the next family friend on the phone. And when I say that there was not one tear, that she really went out very poised and just dignified the way that she really had wrote down on her directive. She really left this planet knowing that this was her time. She started telling me passwords and this is where this is at. And this is where, the purpose in which she was speaking, it was very intentional. Her words, those hours between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. That's what we did. That's what she did. And then she was gone.
Every year for my birthday, we would go camping. That would be like the week I would spend out in the woods and the nature with my Noni, really get to soak her up, just me and her and my mom, maybe a couple cousins. And, I just look back on those times now and they're so much more special to me and all the bonding. And like my mom uses the perfect phrase, she would lay it at your feet, just showing me her interests. And even if I wasn't open to it, she would leave it for me and I would come back to it later. It was just amazing. It was always, perfect. There was nothing wrong that could go wrong with my Noni.
What were some of the amazing things that she instilled in you as a young child?
It's just so loving of everyone. And I picked up on that again, in elementary school. Me and my mom and my Noni lived all together. Me and my Noni actually shared a room and a bunk bed at the same time. Going to school, growing up, you don't like certain kids at school, they don't like you. And, she was probably the first person to tell me, like, in life, you're going to have people that don't like you, the people that do like you, you just, treat everybody the same, treat everybody with fairness. And, it doesn't mean you show hatred or dislike toward anybody. She was just so accepting and, bring everybody together. That was just her main goal. That was one of the most important things she definitely taught, was just togetherness.
Any idea who your Noni was? Obviously now you're finding out, like, oh my goddess, like when you were at her memorial, all the people that showed up, the procession of priestesses and the way that people honored her and the things that they shared.
To be honest, no. To me, growing up, she was just my sweet, old lady grandmother. Treated me like a grandson. I treated her like a grandma. I loved her like a grandma. And it was actually like amazing and, overwhelming to see how many people were behind her and came together, like the community she built. And now when we see all her things and the books she's written and lessons that she's left behind, it's amazing. She was so much bigger than just my grandma. And that really, amplifies down to me, like how they treated me at the ceremony. And even I felt welcomed into the priestesses community, and my dad felt welcome. My mom, everyone's behind us that was with Noni. And, I had no clue that, she was even anywhere near that this many people even loved her like as much as I loved her. So
I consider her a bodhisattva, someone who's already enlightened, and they're choosing not to ascend and leave this life, but to stay back and help others.
Hearing these stories now, just about how life, has turned, being born in Detroit, coming back out here, she had a brother, long lost brother, it's just so many twists and turns, and she just kept going. It was amazing to, see all this. Even this right now, this interview means a lot to me. It's like, it's honoring my Noni, you know what I mean? And, that she touched you enough that we're doing an interview about it. I have friends who've lost grandparents, and that's it after the funeral day. So it's amazing. She'll definitely live on forever. It's not over.
Oh, it's not over. It's only just begun. I think she's actually going to be even larger than life and actually bigger after her death than even during her lifetime. And she had lived an amazing life. And it is my honor to honor her because she is worthy of being honored.
Yeah.
So you didn't have any idea about her background as
Hardly any, she was just a sweet lady, and I knew she'd go up to Middletown and Temple of Light, and always quoted "Glory in the light of the radiant one." And
did you know what that meant?
I never knew what it meant, but she's been saying it since I was knee high to a grasshopper. That's amazing.
And did you know anything about her galactic background?
Being her grandson, whatever we were talking, it was just about the moment, whatever we were doing. And I had an uncle Azul that she used to hang out with a long time ago who passed away. And he actually, it was the first person to tell me about the galactic origin even before my noni.
Older gentleman, right, who was in her spiritual community. And exactly. She actually helped him when he died.
Yeah.
Right? And did you know also that she was a death doula, an end of life midwife? Did you know that's also something she did? Because that's a powerful and profound thing to be doing, which is to assist a person in crossing over. This is a woman who knew a lot about life and death and the great beyond.
She didn't allow me and my mother to be worried as if it were an issue. It was just like, oh yeah, I'm going to the doctor. Oh yeah, I'm going to go get checked up today. And it was just so transactional. And Jahan, I love you, Lysandra, until it kind of hit the fan. And it just all moved so quick. And so I just have to believe that, she was ready. And what was the phrase?
Bodhisattva. Did you know that she was a sacred woman?
Definitely agree that she was a sacred and holy, and she just moved with grace her entire life. And even when it came to, ants in the kitchen, we don't squash the ants. We pick the food up and let them leave on their own. And she just lived her whole life, as blissfully as possible, playing video games. She didn't want to walk past me playing shooting games. She didn't like that at all, only sports games. And, she was just so caring. Yeah. I definitely knew she was here for a greater purpose, and her passing just elevated it all, and it made it kind of coagulate and come together. It's like, it's bigger than me. It's bigger than Celeste, really. It's all like the community behind her and these supporting spirits and everything.
Do you feel like her passing has awakened something in you?
Noni's passing has really opened my eyes, into time itself. He was always so keen on, what I do with my time and making sure that while I'm here, I'm doing something productive. And now since Noni has passed, I really have realized that in the time that we're here, it really feels like a long time and maybe feels like months and years. Like we have so much time, but it's really so short. The impact that we have on this planet, maybe 100 years, if you're lucky, is comes through in a blink of an eye. And I just turned 20 yesterday, you know what I mean? And time doesn't stop for anybody. It's just amazing the impact she was able to have on, and, makes me want to drive harder and do better at school and do better in life. So it definitely has awoken something to me, yes.
Do you feel like she made a contribution to what a good student you are today?
When we shared a room together in a bunk bed, I couldn't even, lay down in the bunk bed till I got to doing my homework or whatever. And she would be right there helping me and on the computer doing her work. And we would work together. Even as I grow up, she'd always come over here, and I would go over to her house, and she'd just be like, hey, how you doing? She was always there supportive of the schoolwork. If I needed anything, pencils, markers, she'd be right there. She was the best grandma I could have asked for. And, I can only wish that I had more time with her. I can only wish that. It was just amazing to be her grandson, and now even see this. It's incredible.
Trust me, we all feel the same way. We all wish we had more time with Celestine Star. That I think that people are still kind of reeling from the suddenness of it. And what wonderful, precious moment in memory do you hold in your heart? Like, I'll always remember that moment with Noni.
The last memory I have of my honorary dean's dinner will be the last time I saw my Noni. And sorry, one sec. We were at Benihana's in Berkeley, California. And, she was just so proud.
She was so proud of you. She told me about that. She said, my grandson made the dean's list, and I'm so, so proud of him. Just want you to know that she definitely sang your praises, and she adored you.
Yeah, she was super happy about that, and that made me feel super happy as well.
Oh, I'm so grateful that I can interview you because I know how precious you are to her.
Yeah.
You are as precious to her as she is to all of us. It's never easy to lose those you love and that are dear to you. I also had a grandmother, and her name was Popo, and she was the love of my life. I adored her, and all I can say is I wouldn't be who I am without her. And I'm sure you feel the same way about your Noni, right?
Last day I talked to her was July 3rd. It was hard. It definitely was hard. I was in Louisiana with my father at the time, with his mom and his dad, and the doctor said the battle was kind of lost, and Noni made a decision that she was going to go. She said she wanted to pass into the light, and she didn't want to keep fighting this. She didn't want to risk another whatever the doctor had proposed. It was only a matter of time. So she was ready to go into the glory of the light of the radiant one.
Yeah, never got how serious that it was either,
And so, yeah, that's what I was saying was just when it all happened, it just shook the earth for me, honestly. Groundbreaking, hardest moment in my life by far. But like I said earlier, it kind of woke me up to the time that we do have here and just making that time count while we're here and showing love to everyone. So when she did pass, when she closed her eyes, I was in Louisiana with my other grandma, and I just really, nestled up under her and, tried to soak her up. She's 78 now. So, she's getting up there too. And I just really am, trying to hold on, while I can and make sure all those moments count, and Noni again, left another impact on that. It's going to make all these moments count more. Even me and my mom's relationship has become 20 times stronger, and we were already, 130 times strong. It's impressive. It's crazy. Yeah.
What do you feel is the most important thing that people know about your Noni and the impact she had during her time on planet Earth?
Important thing I would say about my Noni is she was a healer, a supporter, and you could come to her with anything, no matter who you were, where you come from. I just feel like even though I didn't even know, a fraction of the person who she was, I always knew, any problem I had in life, any problem, I could come to her and she would say, hey, we're going to figure this out together, or I support you and do this. The phrase my dad uses is, she quarterbacked this team. She really wanted my mom and my dad to be together and for them to make me. And she was just so happy with me being here and me being her grandson. And I was just so happy to be in her presence. So this is just an honor. And I would just say, like, the most important thing is she just was so aware of bringing everyone together and just never was like, oh, I don't like these people. Everyone together. It was just, she loved everyone. I want everyone to know that she loved you, and it was just amazing. She was an amazing person.
She is an amazing person. She may have left her body, but I feel her spirit. So I ask you, have you experienced any contact?
All the time. I mean, since the day she's left, I just look at things like how you just said, the wind chimes, and that may have been Celeste. I see eagles in the wind or something that's peculiar, and I'm like, oh, that shouldn't be there. I'd be like, well, there's no need for you. It's just really, when you really are looking for it, it's there. She's there, and it's amazing, the connection you can have with the person, beyond. And I love Noni, and she knows I love her.
Love is the only thing that is real, and it's the only thing that lasts.
Yeah.
No matter whether you're here in this body or you're in the great beyond. And we know that she's gone on to a greater assignment in the stars, and she actually has a star named after her, right there, right near Sirius. Yeah. And how wonderful that she's being honored in that way. You
have asked the most important questions that anyone's asked me, really, up to this date, since my Noni's passing. I really haven't got to tell anyone, in depth, this deep of an interview, because I've been, grieving and just kind of keeping it short. And, it gets kind of repetitive when people are asking, the same question, or what happened, or how do I feel? It's hard to answer that. But since I've had this time to really sulk and kind of bring it in and have those spiritual moments where I see Noni beyond and let her talk to me, and just it's beautiful to just soak it all in. And so definitely I'm telling you about how me and Noni shared a room together. A lot of people may not know that that was for a long time, for a couple of years, 3 or 4 years, in Richmond, California. And my Noni stayed here in Oakland, California with us on and off many, many times. She was always welcome. She was, she's my grandmother. So I definitely got my side of the story off, and I hope everyone, can resonate with that.
She just had this adorable quality to her and had a crazy, wild, funny sense of humor. Like, we had so much fun together. Do you have any stories about that part of her?
Yeah, so my Noni took me to get my first pair of earrings from Jahan, the jeweler in Union Square in San Francisco. She picked me up from school. Everybody said, "Who's that? Who's that?" Oh, it's my Noni. We're going to San Francisco. I tell all my friends, I'm going to San Francisco after school. And it was amazing. We had a great time in the jeweler. His name, I'm named after him, Jahan, and we had a good time in there. It's my first time, going in the back, and we're, Noni's drinking champagne with the jeweler. It's my first time seeing this. I'm young. It was amazing. She's laughing, giggling. It was perfect. Great time. I got my first pair of earrings that day. I have to believe that she's a bodhisattva, like you said. She was ready, and this is insane. It's amazing.
I know it's hard for us because we don't want her to leave. At the same time, she did devote a vast amount of her life to serving humanity and helping every person that she crossed paths with. And for that, I think everyone is eternally grateful. And you, my dear young man who's just turned 20, the apple of her eye, I am sure, we're so blessed to be related to her, to be her family, to be her beloved grandson, who she was so proud of. And I'm sure you brought her so much joy. So I hope that is some consolation that you served her by being her grandson and loving her the way you loved her. And you will continue to love her and appreciate her. And you will learn so much more about her as time goes on. And you will realize, oh my goddess, it's like this song, "No, I am not who you think I am. I am so much more. I am one with source. I am limitless, infinite, powerful, abundant, complete from the start, creatress of all." So I just have to share that with you. I just felt like that so represents her. I think so many people don't have any idea who she really is, not just you. That's why I really wanted to interview her. And my heart hurt so much when that didn't happen, that I said, no, you know what? It's happening. Whether she's in her body or not, I'm going to create an epic, amazing, honoring piece that I've always wanted to do, because I got her from day one. And sometimes I felt like not everybody did, because she's so exceptional and unusual and so powerful. And that's one more question I want to ask you. You were growing up with your Noni. Did you realize, like, wow, God, she is a very powerful being?
We were in San Francisco and we're running late to my birthday dinner. And I forget what street we're on, but there's a lot of trolley cars on this street in San Francisco, a lot of traffic. And she's like, "Don't worry, Jahan, we're going to make it." I'm worrying. I'm like, oh man, our seat's going to get taken. I'm not going to get to eat. And they might say, "No, you guys got to go to the next restaurant down the street." And the next thing you know, she's snapping and the lights are turning green, like 1, 2, 3. It was insane. Like at least 4 or 5 lights turned green. And we got there, found a park right in front. It was insane. I was like, oh man, she must have paid the city workers or something. It was unbelievable. Yeah. Definitely.
Oh, I love that story. Well, that's her.
Yeah, exactly.
She was a priestess and she knew magic, and she was connected to so much more. And she was so much more than all of us even knew. And you did. So I'm so glad you got to experience her magic firsthand. Perfect place for us to complete. And I just want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this, for interviewing and, putting this whole thing together. And also, I you took time with my mom the other day. So I just want to thank you for, digging deeper and asking those hard questions. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's my joy. It's my pleasure. And thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. Because my channel is all about empowering women and creating a platform for somebody just like your Noni.
Wow.
I mean, she is the pinnacle of the kind of woman that I interview.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So you have a lovely smile on your face. I think you feel better after doing this interview, right?
Thank you. I do.
Okay, good.
I'm feeling the depth of the heartbreak from my beloved Celestine Star and the amazingness of the phenomenon of her death, which is nothing I've ever experienced in anyone before. Talked to her the night before because I was in touch with her because I heard she went into the hospital. It was like, whoa, why? And it was like, no, it's going to be okay. Everything's fine. They're just doing some tests. In the morning, I got a text from her daughter, Lysandra, that said, Celestine said she's going to be going today. I got in my car and raced down to San Francisco. And when I got there, they had found out that the hospital had told her that the cancer had spread to her liver and her kidneys. And that's why she was feeling so bad. And it was going to be 1 to 3 days. Celestine was experiencing a lot of pain. They gave her medication, so she just kind of went out into another zone. But the doctor said she can still hear you. So go talk to her, touch her, feel her, whisper into her. She'll know you're there. What can you do but just share your love and your life and your appreciation for such a beloved like that? I knew she had many, many beloveds tracking this now and wondering what was going on. So I began calling some of her deep friends, and I would take the phone and put the phone up to her ear and allow them to say their love for her, to say goodbye, to say how much they loved her, to sing, to chant, to do poetry. And I could tell she could hear because I could see facial expressions, of recognition when information was coming through. And the singing even, and the loving. She never really came to again. She started breathing intensely like people do when they're starting to pass. It's mostly me and her daughter, Lysandra, and then a couple other people. And then at 5 p.m., after her breath got more and more intense, it just stopped. And then that was her passing. She wanted to be at a high level, so why just, hang around and be in pain? And what was so cosmic that night, soon after her death, fireworks started going off to celebrate her. It was a specific time. Star Sirius was one of her homelands. So she passed during that Syrian portal. So she just saw, hey, this is the time, whoop, and went into the other realms. Celestine is a deeply spiritual woman, very high priestess, very old soul, very remembering of her lineage, her past life, her superpowers. She was trained as a child in magical arts, trained very early to access spirit, and that was her whole life. Death has been an expansion of that. Quite a phenomenon. She touched so many people so deeply. I don't think anyone ever knew that phenomenon. And I think when Celestine touched you, you got that she was there 1,000% for you. And there was a transmission of wisdom, a healing, and a lot of times a transmission of love that was so profound for people. Beloveds of Celestine are coming up all over, way beyond even her Bay Area community, just all over the world of people she touched. And she did a lot of healings and a lot of coaching. So that was part of it too. Amazing life of so many different varieties, from being a top class model in her 20s to having to work with the ships in her 30s and 40s, and then a producer and a goddess techie. She was very accomplished at so many levels, and she lived in so many communities, from the Native American to the Mary Magdalene priestesses. She was a priestess of Isis, her Hermetic teachings in Egypt, different communities and lineages. And then the phenomenon of her passing and her coming to people, ongoing, Celestine was with me last night. I didn't really know her very much, but she came to me tonight and I know her now. It doesn't matter who you are. She's on task for the ascension times. And so I have no doubt that as she evaluated, just her life path and what was coming down for her, she got within her that she could go to the other side and be as powerful for these times and for helping us as she was in a physical 3D body, which was very limiting for her. I would say she would tell me a lot of times that she couldn't wait to go home. One of her friends in Fairfax said that when they would come and they would always see each other, they would put their hands up and kiss each other's fingers. You can see that in Celestine. She was very lovey. And next morning he was working in his garden. This is Jeff. And all of a sudden, a wild dove came and landed on his head. He put his finger up. The wild dove got on his finger. He put it to his face. He just thought, by chance, he'd say, "Is that you, Celestine?" The dove kissed his finger. He was blown away. And he thought, I better try that again. "Celestine, is that you?" The dove kissed his finger. He was with the dove for a while and then it went away. And he thought, well, I'm going to put out water for the dove because maybe I can have a relationship on whatever multidimensional level with the spirit of Celestine or whatever. So he had the water out. Day after day, nothing happened, except for on the day of Celestine's memorial, he went out and there was a white feather in there, one white feather. That's the kind of phenomenon that happens when you're with Celestine. She is turning out to be even way bigger in death than she was in life. And a lot of that is the frequency of love with everybody. She was the frequency of love, which is where we're all going towards. That's what we're meant to be waking up to right now in this great awakening, is living in the frequency of love, deep connection with spirit on all levels of your being. If anyone would like to support the Celestine Star GoFundMe, that money is going to go to help with her digital archives, help spread her teachings, and help create a scholarship for young women to be self-empowered.
Was calling in the goddess. I was really calling in an elder. I was calling in a teacher. I was calling in a muse. I wanted to visually be in the presence of a goddess, somebody that I deeply respected and honored, who was walking the path of the beauty way. And so when I saw Celestine, I knew instantly, it was an instant recognition, that's who I was in front of. It was instant for her too. She saw me as also a star being who was an oracle as well, initiated me into the realm of the goddess, invited me onto stage at the Health and Harmony, introduced me to goddesses such as yourself and others. And we performed in 2011 at Health and Harmony, the last Health and Harmony on the goddess stage. And it was my first introduction to that world. And she also ordained me as a priestess of Kali. So we were best friends. I would speak to her on a weekly basis, and she was just always there for me in times of hardship or where I just had a hard time seeing the light. She was the person that I would call on to help support me, to remind me, to guide the way. And she did so in a way that just woke me up. She was just so positive and so encouraging. She impacted me by always reminding me how beautiful I am and how perfect everything is and how much we're being supported beyond what we can see with our eyes. She talked me through having this contact with these galactics. She was my galactic grounding on this earth plane, someone that I could connect to in a way that I don't connect to with most people. Speaking of, love and compassion and understanding and beauty, and knowing that we are supported. There is a galactic federation that is supporting us, that there are beings here on earth here to help our consciousness rise, or help to elevate us. Love wins. That's it. Love wins. And when you choose love, and when you choose to be in your heart and you trust yourself, the whole world benefits from that, from your own experience with loving yourself. And she's just a queen of love, a queen of devotion, a force for good on the planet, and finding out how you can be in service to others. She was always in service. She was like a death doula. She wasn't afraid of anything. She was fearless, and she was so confident in her truth, and didn't experience her as insecure at all. I felt like she understood things beyond the rational mind, and I really respected that a lot. She really helped to open my mind and open my heart and deepen in my wisdom and to remember who I was. And yeah, she was just the best.
She really is the best, and she is everywhere now. She is limitless.
I wrote a poem about her. You know, you are in the stars, you are in the trees, you are in the sun, you are in the breeze, you are in our visions, you are in our dreams. You, I, and we are together eternally. She's everywhere, and I sense her everywhere. And that's what I love the most, because I feel like she's helping us in another realm here now. Like, she was called to do that. You know, she knew it was her time, and it seemed quick in the way that she went. And it just seems like, you know, she's a fairy godmother anyway, and now she's supporting us and she's everywhere. So I feel her everywhere. I didn't catch her right as she left, but I was there 10 minutes after, and just how much I love her, and that she made impact, that her life made a difference, and that how loved she was, and that her legacy will live on, and that she will never be forgotten, and that she's here for eternity in all of our hearts, and that everything she created, everything that she did, will continue to live on for eternity. She was pure inspiration, and I'm so grateful that I got to experience her in this time, that I was alive when she was alive, you know, that I had any time with her. She was really that special. She was an oracle. Like, she just knew how to tune in and hear what needed to be said, and say the things that bring you back into your heart again. So yeah, she taught me about greatness. She inspired greatness. She attracted greatness into her life. And if she left me with anything, it's just to know that I am greatness as well. And you are greatness, and everyone is greatness. And I think that she was just such a beautiful and wonderful example. I'm just honored and inspired more in my life because of Celestine. And I look forward to actually going back into her archives, or her heartchives. I didn't get enough of her. I didn't dive into every single corner that she would go into to share. And I'm actually so curious to learn more, and to go back into those teachings now that the mama is gone, because she kind of felt like the mama leader, because she too was the same for me, just like the one woman that I'm like, wow, she's like the high priestess. So I feel like she's keeping us all together in this way. So I'm grateful to know you, and I'm so happy that you're doing this and supporting you and your mission to help inspire the world and get the voice of the goddess out there. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Michaela, for sharing from your heart. I agree with everything that you said.
She impacted me in such a way that my life would never be the same. She really helped to transform me in times where I felt I was in a real shadow, dark place. And she just brought the light and helped me to get back in my lane, to see the greatness in myself, to trust the path I was on. And this is just to say I love you and thank you. Thank you for guiding the way. Thank you for always being there in my life to hear me and support me in ways that helped me to feel strong and healthy and whole. And I love you so much.
Let's enjoy these beautiful moments from our rehearsal for the Harmony Festival, where we performed at the Goddess Grove stage and did our dance for the goddess and shared our oracular message. Now, I don't have the actual footage from the live performance, but fortunately I happen to have the rehearsal footage. And Celestine was definitely enjoying rehearsing with us.
met at this most amazing artist named Penny Slinger's house. It's called the Goddess Temple in the Santa Cruz Mountains. She was very eccentric and just had just this altar of a room. We just did video and all kinds of stuff in there, which is kind of surprising because I was trying to get that video for this interview, because what we were doing, Celestine and I were sort of the choreographers. Okay, Penny would have these like visions of what she wanted to do. She wanted to embody the goddess. She wanted to embody spiritual concepts through, because I'm a past dancer and choreographer. Celestine was the priestess. And yes, of course. And we did prayer formats. That can be a theatrical piece. However, Celestine was activating space and everybody felt it. I mean, it was like, I'm getting tingles right now. Like,
me too.
Yeah.
I'm getting tingles too.
I notice a lot of people maybe doing things for show and saying they might be this, they might be that. But when Celestine opened a portal, it was open, and you felt it. And in the early days were actual public performances. But I don't want to date myself too much, but we didn't walk around with our phones with the video cameras, and it might have gotten recorded, but it was not like it is right now. And so like it is right now, we would have recorded everything and it would have blown people's minds. Celestine was part of that whole crew that was hanging out at her goddess temple in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And we did public events, and people literally would write us letters for like years after. What you did changed my life. But that, I feel, was Celestine's truth and magic, because she was somebody that wasn't just talking, she was walking the talk. And
Celestine was the real deal.
yeah. So we did a very large public prayer format space, and she designed and created the whole portal. So all of the audience walked through the portal that she created in that room. And they walked over and received crystals and actually touched the mother crystal. But by every single person participating in this, it became a group experience and a group mind. And so it wasn't just like people come for like some show that they're just going to sit back and watch. They were participating, and it was in the moment, made up in the moment. The dance was also improv in the moment, so that the whole energy and the whole space was a creation. She was really grounded also. So she walked the earth. It wasn't like she was floating above the earth or floating above, she was real. When someone's kind of like upset or spinning out or letting their mind like take over or that kind of thing, she was so good at making it real, keeping it, grounded, just getting them out of that head and into what's the next step. So she was very solution oriented. So it wasn't just that it was up in the air, sort of like this etheric, sort of untouchable feeling around Celestine. So she was very grounded, and she loved a good party. I mean, that was her heyday, being at the party and seeing every single person. And later it became her documenting all of it. And every time she was there, it was taking pictures, or she had a video camera. And that became her new passion. And she really wanted to archive all of this activities and beginning connections with luminaries and authors and people that were, really on the public stage. She would get these messages that we needed to go clear some energies from certain parts on the planet, literally fly to a couple of countries and planting crystals. And even the smallest crystal, it doesn't really matter the size, but the intention that you hold. The crystals are radio transmitters, so you can activate them or you can use them to disperse energy. And so it was really about planting crystals and activating the intention of that prayer. So we did that.
Isn't she amazing in ceremony? I just love doing ceremony and ritual with her.
Oh, you're amazing in ceremony too.
Thank you.
Both you and she, I mean, it's something that she really stepped into. And you do need to embody the clothing. You do need to embody the imaging, because, some of us are walking around like in shorts and a t-shirt, but we still are that.
Yeah.
But
You're holding the living goddess frequency.
Yeah, she's a true channel, but the reflection for everyone to also see with the clothing and things that can, have the visual to know that she truly is a priestess.
She was born and bred to be a high priestess. It's in her DNA.
Yeah.
And she's the people I've interviewed who said the same thing. It's just so obvious, right?
Yeah. When I first met her, that's just emerging, which is not to say that it wasn't always there. I'm saying that the imagery of it is important for
the presentation.
The presentation, right? Thank you. The presentation of that truth. And, so there's a lot of reflections, but she really was holding that space. But like I said, the grounding and doing some of that work, like she was doing that work all the time too. I'm feeling a little teary-eyed at the moment, and I am trying to hold it.
Don't hold it. I cry all the time. I think people watching will be crying because there's just so much there. She touched our hearts, and we shared some sacred times. And that was her mission, was to keep the way sacred. And she did it like no other.
Yeah.
And I miss her so much. This is an opportunity for all of us to grieve together in community. And she was so tribal, inclusive of everyone in the community, and was about the higher good.
Yeah. And her media and things that, these videos in the archives, and really wanting to put that was something that was so important to her, that I hope to work with her daughter to support that. And so I guess I get a little teary because we were just doing that 3 weeks before her passing. And so that, I just want to say how important that is. And I really look forward to that coming out for her and honoring her that way. The real deal.
Now it's sort of like trendy to be a priestess. It's in to be a goddess. All of that finally is accepted and actually even celebrated,
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
She was like way ahead of her time, and she was the real deal. So when I see other people sort of saying, yeah, I'm a priestess and I've studied this and that, I'm going, yeah, you haven't seen Celestine Star. She is the priestess of priestesses. She can just shift and transform energy. And plus she just had this ability to connect with divinity and the flesh that was so profound. And she could just look at somebody. She was able to just read people and read situations. There's really like not a whole lot you can hide from her, which is what I love about her. She's so real.
He was always calling me out as an earth angel. It's like, wait, did I just hear a complaining word? Wait, did you just complain? No, we don't. Earth angels don't do that. I mean, there's nothing to complain about because it's all divine and it's all perfect and it's all God.
Welcome to Conversations with Goddess.
Hi, Heaven.
Great to see you.
So
Great to see you guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tell us how you met our beloved Celestine Star.
That goes back to the 90s. I believe 97 is our first video of her.
Yeah.
At the Goddess Temple, the famous Goddess Temple in Boulder Creek.
Yes, she was an initiator of goddesses. I don't think I would have had any kind of initiation had it not been for the grace of Celestine, because she was bringing the sacred way and trying to find kindred spirits to understand the frequency of sacred femininity. And we met her at a friend's house where she was officiating a ceremony at the Goddess Temple in Boulder Creek, where we live. And she just was her radiant self. She did such magic with people.
Very dynamic, very alive. If there was such a thing as a head goddess, she was it.
Yes, she is the high priestess of goddesses, for sure. Yeah.
And we became good friends, and we'd make media together, and we'd go on adventures.
Tell us about the media that you guys have made together.
Well, we all shared the common vision that media could elevate our consciousness and elevate our species awareness so that we could have a better planet. And she was as dedicated as we were to carrying cameras and changing tapes and microphones and getting the lighting right, to getting the right questions and talking to amazing people and getting the magic onto the media of the time so that we could share it with others and people could see how magic reality could be.
Our reality together was and is so magical, and to be able to bring the technology to those incredible gathering of creative spirits and to honor the energy that was being exchanged between people by creating a community effort.
It was not just recording magic and synchronicities, it was creating it.
Yeah.
She has a background in arcane magic, so she creates magic wherever she goes, right?
That's
Yeah,
right. That's right.
absolutely.
And it was all about that. It was all about being really alive and really present with each moment and sharing the majesty of each moment and recognizing that's what it was about.
Son, you were sharing with us about the power of working in community, and even like at her memorial, working through some of the challenges that happens in community. But ultimately, that's the lesson, right? That is the working, as Celestine would call it, to find that place of harmony where everybody is able to support and work together.
Yes, it was so profound. She was such a master of holding her own incredible grace and her own power of the creative spirit that she embodied, and to open from there into a sacred space that recognized every single person in their own center. She really saw the beauty in everyone and welcomed their contribution to the ensemble of the experience. And that made it so special.
That you were also talking about, that's what we're moving into in the Aquarian age.
Yes.
Elaborate, please.
Oh, yeah, because the time that is ending is the time of self-perfection and sacrifice for the good of all. And yet the kind of things that people could bring to the equation were by the self. Like, you had to perfect yourself in order to be a bodhisattva to serve the all. But in the age of Aquarius, we're leaving that kind of idea that it's all on me behind. And we're entering a time where you take your perfected self and you bring your gifts to the community. And then we all work together to solve the problems, kind of like the extended family of life that we are. So it's a new vibration for a new era, and it's more creative. And you can't enter it without being a strong, embodied, awake individual, but you have to come for the whole team.
Mm-hmm. And make sure that everybody plays well together, right?
Yeah, that's the harmony. That's the way.
So what do you think is Celestine's message to all of us at this time? Because her passing has catalyzed something incredible. It's like a spiritual phenomenon. They all want to say something. I personally don't have time to interview all of them. What do you think is the message that Celestine wants to leave with all of us at this time on the planet?
You can see how on point and on purpose she was in her life by the fact that so many of us all feel like she was our best friend.
Exactly. No, she was my best friend for sure. No, she was mine. She was my bestie. She was my BFF. She was my girl. I was her girl. Okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
She loved us all, and she had that amazing ability to.
Of course, all of us adored her. I mean, to know her is to love her. So, what did you love most about Celestine Aisha Star?
God, everything. She was such a mama, and she was such a playful love being, and she was so spectacular at everything that she touched. She was so aesthetic. The productions she put together were just amazing. They were rich, they were elegant, they were flowing, they were inspiring, they were bejeweled. And she just took everything she touched and just elevated it to a level.
Created magic. She just created magic, and everything she did was like first rate, right? She would definitely fall in the category, I think, of super goddess.
Super goddess, for sure.
And she had an amazing ability of allowing us all to feel really good about ourselves as well as each other. You know, and the whole about ourselves and each other, the combination of that is truly magic and truly mystical, and and where we all want to go in that state of connectedness.
I miss her. I miss her so much. Yeah. There's an empty place that she filled for all of us, and everybody I've spoken to has said how much they miss her and how much they wish they had more time with her.
Yeah.
And that said, it's amazing how many people feel like she's still communicating with us all.
Have you had any communication with her?
pretty regularly, actually. I kind of feel adopted by her as a new mystic, because I'm really getting very clear visualizations of my experiences with her that feel very much like a telepathic conversation that is light to light, and that she is asking me to see certain things and understand certain things, and she's giving me information and she's answering my questions at her memorial. I felt like there was a moment where I was kind of invisible, because I was kind of having this experience myself of people that I know and love. I would walk up to them to have a conversation with them and they wouldn't see me. They like looked right through me. And I thought that was kind of weird. That doesn't usually happen. And I walked over to the table where the altar of all the pictures of her were. And I felt this incredible moment of sadness, of like not being in the body anymore, and feeling like it was so sudden. And she was kind of shocked because she was expecting, as we know, she was so vital. She was expecting to be embodied a lot longer. And so there was that little bit of momentary regret, but then there was also the sense of like being on the bigger mission, like, oh, you know, that's just little Celestine talking. And then we walked over together. Again, I'm still having this experience of being invisible and people who know me, like not seeing me. And I'm kind of going, oh, this is like what it's like to be disembodied. And then, I was standing in front of her grandson, who I pretty much had just met that day, but you know, she loved him so much and she had spoken of him, and I just felt so warm towards him because I knew how she loved him. And you know, he had been so eloquent during her ceremony, and I had a chance.
And very, very eloquent in the interview I just did with him. He was beautiful. He's such a beautiful young man, and it's an example of, you know, her DNA being in him, and also the fact that they were so close. I mean, one of the things he shared was that they actually shared a room together for many years. They shared like bunk beds. His noni was with him and made sure that he would do his homework before he went to bed. And now today he's made the dean's list.
Beautiful.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you can see her spirit in him and in Lysandra, both of them of that super clear radiance that just comes from like knowing who you are and knowing that you're loved, and having done your work, like risen to the occasion of the struggles that presented themselves. You just see their arrival at who they are, and what a gift that is.
And also that her passing, even though it's very sad that we are not going to see her in the physical anymore, it seems to be one of her workings. You know, she's catalyzing major growth in her community and even in her own family. They're finally discovering who she is.
Right.
It took something like this to really put her in the forefront, in the spotlight, and give her the platform that I always knew she deserved. So that's why I'd been wanting to interview her for the longest time. I mean, this is Conversations with Goddess, and I mean, what other goddess could I interview that's even close to her?
I agree. I felt her helping to direct the edit when I made Tarot Fun, the 3-minute video of her from 20 years ago, playing with tarot cards. She had an incredible sense of humor.
Oh, yeah, I know that sense of humor well. I mean, we would crack each other up. I miss that so much. I mean, we would just get on the phone with each other, or we'd do a Zoom ritual. I have a little Zoom ritual that we did that was fucking hilarious. Excuse my French, but I speak French. So anyway,
Make sure we get good endorphins coming out.
Time together, we really loved each other's company, and it was a beautiful holiday we all had with each other.
Yeah, I so love spending any time with her, and she has one of the most wicked sense of humors. You know, like she would, like mess with people with her sense of humor, right?
I know, it's no bullshit, right?
I mean, she also had this way, and some people have mentioned it too, like she just knows how to call somebody out.
That's right. So gently.
Very, very masterfully, right?
Badass.
Total badass. That's why I love her. Takes one to know one, you know? So let me ask you this, go ahead.
well, I just wanted to share a badass moment is,
Please.
we were texting, of course, as she was in her final departure.
Right.
And from the time that I had sent my last text message to her, which was kind of intuitive, like I felt her saying goodbye. And the next time that I was kind of trying to communicate, she had asked me to film something, and I had filmed her. And she had started by saying, "Oh, and there's my little sunshine." And it just so happened, like, I was going to sit down at the computer to send her a note, and that Facebook thing popped up and said, "Oh, there's my little sunshine." Like, she's talking to me through the computer, through this thing that I posted. Yeah. It was amazing. It's like a message directly from her.
The stories that I have heard people share about her are completely like off the Richter.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Even one that her grandson shared. Just an example of her magic. And so many people experience that. So let me ask you this final question that I would have asked her if I actually had the opportunity to do that original interview. I was going to ask her, what is the most important thing you think humanity needs to know now? What do you think she would have answered?
Well, she was someone who had her feet on the ground and head in the stars. And I think she would have liked more company, more people who are seeing the full spectrum of what it means to be human, having both your rational side together and also your shamanic awareness. And the combination of both those faculties is who we are as living beings on this planet. And the full chakra activation. I think that you want more company in that arena.
Yeah. She was very much aware that all of the beings of light, glory in the light of the radiant ones.
Glory in the light of the radiant one.
Yeah.
Peace be on your way. That we have ambassadors from the realms of the great beings that have always been guardians of Earth. And she was trying to help humanity recognize and communicate and receive all of the blessings that are available. And she was so tuned in to the beings that were working against the good of all and the beings that were working for the good of all. And she was really helping people see themselves and asking people to help call in all of the help for all of the goodness that is ours, that is unfolding. And she just knew that we've already arrived and won, and we just need to step into it and understand how much we are loved and how much help we all have.
Yeah. The lessons have been learned. Let's get on with it.
I love that.
To continue to elevate consciousness with our media.
Right, because that was her mission here. That was her purpose.
Celestine helps us understand that we are the gifts that we are giving to each other. And we don't need to be in our own way. We just need to come from love, as she showed us over and over again.
Beautiful. I think that's a perfect ending. That is an absolute perfect ending. We can just close with glory in the light of the radiant one. Glory in the light of the radiant one. Glory in the light of the radiant one. Peace be on your way.
Thank you, Heaven.
Thank you both so much. So much love to both of you. So wonderful. I love you both.
Such a blessing.
So let's take a moment and check out this adorable video of our beloved star, because we know she was adorable and definitely playful and oh so fun. And that is definitely captured in this video that was edited by Sun and Alan Lundell, Dr. and Mrs. Future.
Sex. Sexual rights will be explored with the fire. We bring all things to our circle. Love, sex, joy, laughing, party, the goddess frequency band.
All right.
Get 'em now. Be there or be square. Live with the sacred egg. Know the truth. Open it, for the time has come. Did I look at my watch? Yes, it was 12, I remember well. Long ago when I looked into the magic well of time, and it did rhyme. I'm on my way. Bye.
Yes, listen to the priestess of...
I didn't know if it was day or night. I know the kiss and everything inside. Do you remember that? Once again, we're at 11 o'clock. If you haven't taken care of your body, you're going to look like this. So be careful, because you must take your vitamins. Do take your miso soup with you, little chips, water, everything across the stormy desert. And don't forget to shut the door at night. He's incredible. Look at the kinship in our group. I mean, we are taking the boat across the sea of death. We know nothing, but yet we gather by the masses. Let them tell us not that we cannot gather, for we are strong and we are one. One ring for the elfin lord, one ring for the earthen kings, one ring to bind them all, and one to set them free.
I don't know. So it could be Ace of Wands.
Lots
Ace of
and
Wands.
lots of love. Pure, natural, flowing love.
Well, what'd you get?
Oh, do you really want to know?
Yeah, why do you want to know?
Do you really want to know?
Check it out.
Yes, ma'am.
I got.
ma'am.
What does it say?
It says
Shaman.
Wands.
Oh boy.
Shaman of Wands.
Sounds real for you.
Squeeze the shaman.
Squeeze the shaman. That's great.
Sharing is caring.
Who's helping her here?
Who, me? I'm innocent. I know
Oh, you're
nothing.
innocent, huh?
I know nothing. Did I say that? Oh, that's wonderful. I love looking at me. Be aware. Be there. The time is right. The time is now. Love with all your might. Be right with all your might. Love, black or white. In the middle is the way. You are the way. See you on the way. See ya.
I met her at one of the parties that Penny used to have in Boulder Creek. Penny became the wife of Christopher Hills. Christopher Hills was considered a wizard, and he had a company called Light Force, and he was the person that brought spirulina into the consciousness of the masses. He married Penny, an artist that specialized with things related to goddess and goddess energies. Now, Christopher had a knack for inviting high consciousness people to his parties. Even after Christopher was gone, Penny continued this tradition of having very high consciousness people at these parties. So 85 or 90% of the people at these parties were really leaders in their field or very high consciousness beings. Celestine was there, and that's how I got to meet her. And once Penny and I were chatting at one of these parties, looking at everybody, and I happened to say to Penny, you know, most of these women fancy themselves to be a goddess, but in my estimation, most of them have a long ways to go before they achieve that status. And Penny, without the slightest hesitation, said to me, well, Celestine is certainly a goddess. And of course, I agreed with her on that. When Penny wanted to have everybody move over to another activity, she'd always call upon Celestine to move the group energies in a different direction. She'd say, you know, Celestine, could you please move everybody's energy into this room? We're going to do the ceremony there. Or Celestine, could you please move everybody into this room? Someone's going to be performing in there. Celestine would always do this very effortlessly, very efficiently, but also with tremendous graciousness, while at the same time very effective. So it started becoming very obvious to me that Celestine must have had many lifetimes of experience as a priestess, because she was such a natural at leading group ceremonies. She did it so effortlessly, so naturally. Now, at the opposite end of the spectrum, Celestine was also very street smart. She was very shrewd and discerning. You could smell dishonest behavior a mile away. She's very discerning in that way. She had a wonderful sense of tribal consciousness. She got to be good friends with most of the people at these parties, and she considered them her tribe. And because of that, she felt like always supporting her extended family in every way she could. Really believe in that. We're part of the same family. By God, I'm going to support you every way I can. Once I saw her give a man that was very hurting for money, she just simply handed him a $50 bill. No questions, no strings attached, no loan. She just gave him a $50 bill. She knew that would help him out. That's the type of person she was. She was very much into supporting the members of her tribe. If I had anything I wanted to say to Celeste at her bedside when she was transitioning, she was such a conscious being that there's nothing that I could say that it would not already have occurred to her.
What I love so much about Celestine is that she was so much on purpose with what I feel my purpose is to change people's perceptions about the nature of reality. She came with an awareness of where her origins were, the stars, and she spoke on that level to people. She spoke as a true ambassador of multiple dimensions of consciousness, and that was so far beyond what many people understood as possible. So I think she didn't feel understood by a large majority of the public and the people she talked to, but I think I understood what she was trying to say for the most part, that she was here to represent the highest potential of human beings, the highest potential of love and communication of superhuman realities. I won't say non-human, I would say superhuman, where love and wisdom are an essence of one's message. You can't separate love from wisdom or wisdom from love, because that's what I feel she gave people, love and wisdom in one package, and that's rare. And like I said, I don't know if I got the whole thing, but I really appreciated her level of inspiration and where she was trying to take people to as an ambassador from the stars and from multiple dimensions of awareness. And because she was so, I would say, complex in that way, a lot of people didn't understand that. Often in interviews, Celestine would say things and people didn't get it. She felt very underappreciated and misunderstood or not understood by some of the people in the interview. And she would tell me after, she'd call me up after and say, you know, those people didn't get it, or she felt as if she was disregarded. And I tried to patch that up because I got what she was saying. I thought other people did, and maybe I didn't notice that they were not getting her point. And I always tried to integrate her comments into the larger picture. So that was my job as interviewer, trying to get all these different perspectives together. And she was presenting something very high and evolved, and people were not probably fitting into their box. You know, everyone has their own little box of understanding, especially when it comes to ETs and celestial realities. And she was presenting people with a greater box of what was possible, and it didn't fit. So that's probably why she was felt underappreciated, because people did not get what she was offering. Because she had experiences and she had a whole history and she had visions that most people have not had. So I think a documentary like this and what Heaven is doing is a way to integrate knowledge that was ahead of its time into the time that we're in now. And that's why I feel this is such an important project. I think that in years to come, we will understand more of what Celestine was trying to share here as we evolve as a human species, as we reach the levels of love and understanding and intelligence that she lived from. So that's my love and dedication to who she was, is, and may always be.
When you first meet somebody, there is sometimes a soul recognition. You look at each other. You know, this is not a connection like other connections. This is a more powerful connection for me. Doesn't mean that that person needs to be put on a pedestal, but there's a soul reflection that happens. And I met her, I think in '96, at a movie premiere in San Rafael at the San Rafael Theater. From then on, we were both part of the same community, but we usually didn't meet in community. We would meet one-on-one and talk, which usually was about sharing or revealing ourselves. So it was a soulful friendship. It is a mutual thing, and a relationship establishes itself not in the giving, but in the receiving. It was in the way I felt received by her that she touched me. She trusted me. She told me that I was probably the only man with whom she would share everything about her childhood in an interview. I mean, on the practical level, I hired her a number of times in the context of my interview show. She did video work for me, but that's not really the essence. She wanted to serve and be part of healing, be loving. We all have legacies that are important, and I am not wanting to put Celestine on a pedestal. I'm here to pay tribute and to honor her as someone who deeply moved me in my life. Deeply grateful for the way I've always felt loved by her. What makes me trust somebody on a soul level or emotionally is the way in which they reveal themselves, not how they portray themselves, not how they position themselves. Their power, their image is completely irrelevant to me. It is how deeply they reveal their soul and the humility with which they come across. This is what makes the difference. This is what has me trust somebody. This is what I would want somebody to look at to trust me. With Celestine, she was always transparent and humble. She didn't have much to hide. She would share drama and issues on Facebook sometimes that other people may not have felt comfortable sharing. She had no problem doing that. She was who she was, a human being with struggles and with a deep spiritual intention to have as much light to shine as possible, to be as mature as possible. I was singing a concert in my own house. There were about 60, 70 people in the audience, and she was there. The last note is extremely ecstatic and climax-like, and Celestine just shouted out. She was touched by the song, by my expression, by the way I expressed myself as a vocalist, and she shouted out "Habe Dank," which means be grateful. That's something that I will never forget. That moment, how she was touched.
As an artist herself, she loved singing and dancing and all forms of creative self-expression, and she celebrated that in others. And I always felt deeply recognized and appreciated by her for my artistry.
That's actually also in her book. That artistic expression is an essential part of the journey. That no matter how we want to express ourselves, that this is very vital. And she was really an artist and expressed herself in many ways. This was part of our connection, actually. I'm glad you brought that up. It's part of our connection was an artist connection. When somebody has touched me or has been in my life, that is what happens. I am probably a very emotional man. So women are known traditionally to be more emotional than men, and men are more intellectual, more spiritual. But I am also a very emotional man, actually. And so when somebody actually does get into my heart, they touch me deeply. And with Celestine, it is also a bigger picture of in community, or the role she played in community. It's a combination of my personal connection to her and how she impacted community, and how I admired how she impacted community. How, for example, she was always there when people died, and she helped people die, which was one of her greatest contributions, actually. How she helped people die, and she showed up.
What I think is important to establish from the outset is Celestine's heart, her generous and loving heart, and this steadfast purpose she had to bring benefit to the beings. and to raise the consciousness and expand the consciousness on this planet. And this is beyond all the connections with the ultra terrestrials and all the incredible things that you can see and experience. It's the heart. She walked her talk, and she had this purpose to bring benefit to beings. What does this person need in their life right now? What can bring the most benefit to others right now? And so I don't know if this is answering your question, but I feel it's important to say that's my impression of Celestine, was her generous heart.
Over the years, from the time you met her until your reconnection recently, she's never wavered from that.
You know, I hadn't talked with her for about, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. And then when I was watching some of the videos that were recent, you know, like maybe a year or two old interviews that she's done, and there had been like an up level in her presence. And but she was, like I said, always this really wise, incredible spiritual teacher. But it's like, and I even told her, Celestine, you've grown, you know, there's this quiet confidence and self-assuredness when you're sharing your information that is palpable. And, you know, I just wanted you to know, I just wanted her to know that I saw that in her, that even someone like her, like Celestine, grows and matures.
When you get phone calls about somebody passing, there's often this feeling of sadness and if you knew them well. But with Celestine, when I got this email, it was yes, because she was always so close to other dimensional frequencies, and that this would be a release. This would be her freedom. Mm-hmm. And that Celestine, as far as I'm concerned, is as present now in our dimension as she was before, and possibly being able to influence even more. So God bless you, Celestine, wherever you are.
You can't help being around Celestine and not get the spiritual, because I'm with her and there's the Galactics. They're right there. Every time I'm with, oh, they're there. They're there. There they are. They were always with her. When she was planning a sky watch, she would connect with Commander Tanandor, which she spoke of often. He would come to her when she was about to wake and put his hand on her and said, "The light is upon you. What do you want?" And so before she would do a sky watch, she would commune. And what is the theme? Is this going to be a good date? Or, you know, she really wanted them there, and she commanded that energy with her sky watches. She extended her work into providing galactic origin sessions. And that is when she connected with a person and helped us go back to our actual origins. From where did we come from before we came to Earth? With such clarity within ourselves, there was no doubt that I knew from where I came from when I was done with the work with Celestine. And she had this whole process that was downloaded to her, and she carried it, and she continues to do her work on the other side. It's her passing was so fast. She allowed her ascension to be very quick. I've often heard it's hard to die. She was so prepared with all of the work that she had done that she wasn't afraid. She was right there. She was right there in the veils and ready. We love you, Celestine. Bless you. Peace be on your way. And you're still with us. Thank you very much. Lynn Ann King. The pleasure and honor of working with Celestine Star in her marketing strongly for the last 3 years.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing from your hearts. And special thanks to Alan Steinfeld of New Realities, also Earth Files, Portal to Ascension, and all the other amazing people who share generously their interviews with Celestine Aisha Star. For all time you are loved even more than you can know. And with each passing lifetime, we watch you as you grow to be more full of wisdom, radiant and divine. Oh, dear star, you're a masterpiece, a heavenly design. So may the goddess bless you and keep you all aglow. And we wish you goddess speed, and may all blessings flow. We will all carry on your light. We will carry on your teachings, your mission, and your archive. You have my word of honor. And please remember, everyone, to donate to the GoFundMe campaign, Celestine Aisha Star. Peace be on your way.
I am Nephthys. This is my last incarnation. I am the twin of Isis.